everyone. This is for all the children at home during this COVID-19 pandemic. Join ACE Radio School on Wazobia Abuja to continue learning while you're at home. This is for nursery, primary, and secondary school children. We will be teaching you literacy, numeracy, STEM subjects. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and maths. This is an ACE charity initiative. Powered by the Malala Fund.
This broadcast is for secondary school students. Hello, listeners. My name is Adesami Temitayo, and I welcome you to today's English class on ACE Radio School. I want to take this time to appreciate the students that sent in responses to the lesson on sentence types. We got your text messages, and you all did great. In the previous class, we learned about two types of sentences, namely simple sentence and compound sentence. We learned that a simple sentence is an independent clause that contains only one idea, while a compound sentence is a combination of two or more independent clauses joined by conjunctions. Today, we will be learning about the two other types of sentences, namely complex sentence and compound complex sentence. Can we take it again? Complex sentence and compound complex sentence. Very good. Pay attention, students, because at the end of the lesson, I will ask you a few questions. I hope you're all ready. Get your writing materials and listen attentively. We start with the complex sentence. Complex sentence. C-O-M-P-L-E-X. A complex sentence is a sentence with one independent or main clause and one or more dependent or subordinate clauses. An independent or main clause is a clause which can stand on its own, while dependent or subordinate clause, as the name implies, cannot stand on its own but has to depend on the main clause for its meaning. The dependent clause in a complex sentence is usually introduced by a subordinating conjunction. For example, this is the man who was caught stealing mangoes. In the sentence above, the main or independent clause is "this is the man," while "who was caught stealing mangoes" is the dependent or subordinate clause joined to the main clause by the subordinating conjunction "who." So who is the subordinating conjunction here? It depends on the main clause, which can stand on its own for its meaning. Other examples of a complex sentence are: A. The teacher punished him because he bullied a junior. B. This is the girl who danced very well at the party. C. When the children were sleeping, the dog ate the meat. D. Femi did not do well in the examination since he had been out of school for more than a year. All these examples contain only one main clause that is supported by subordinate clauses which depends on it. Are we following? Okay. Now let's move on to the compound complex sentence. Compound complex sentence. A compound complex sentence is a sentence with at least two independent or main clauses and at least one dependent or subordinate clause which are combined into a single unit. I take that again. A compound complex sentence contains at least two independent or main clauses and at least one dependent or subordinate clause which are combined into a single unit. An example of a compound complex sentence is: A. Because the student overslept, she came late to the examination hall, didn't answer all the questions, and failed the paper. There are 3 independent clauses here. 1. She came late to the examination hall. 2. She didn't answer all the questions. 3. She failed the paper. The independent clause is because the student overslept. And of course, because is a subordinating conjunction. Let's take another example. While the children were away, the dog crept into the room and ate the raw meat. In this example, how many independent clauses are there? While the children were away, the dog crept into the room and ate the raw meat. There are 2 independent clauses. The dog crept into the room and the dog ate the raw meat. This is combined with the dependent clause while the students were away to form one whole sentence. Alright students, let's do a recap of what has been learned today. We looked at 2 other types of sentences, namely the complex sentence, which is a sentence that has one independent or main clause and one or more dependent or subordinate clause, and it is joined with what? With a subordinating conjunction. We also looked at the compound complex sentence. A compound complex sentence will contain at least 2 independent, at least, that means you can have more than 2 independent or main clauses and at least 1 dependent or subordinate clause combined into one single unit. Okay? Now it's question time. Are you ready? Let's do this. Listen to the following sentences and write the type, whether it is complex or compound complex. Number 1. Because I paid attention, I got an A on the test and I was happy. I take number 1 again. Because I paid attention, I got an A on the test and I was happy. Number 2. While James reads novels, John reads magazines, but Oluchi only reads comics. Number 2. While James reads novels, John reads magazines, but Oluchi only reads comics. Number 3. I learned English perfectly because I listened to Ace Radio School. Number 3. I learned English perfectly because I listened to Ace Radio School. Send your response as a text message indicating your name, gender, state, and subject, that is English, to 070 363 03182. I take it again, 070 363 03182. Alright, well done students for participating with your friends in today's English lesson. To listen to a repeat of this episode, tune in on Thursdays at 2:30 p.m. and Saturday at 11:30 a.m. You can also catch up on past episodes on your YouTube channel called Ace Radio School. Don't forget to subscribe. Until I come your way again, it's Adesomi saying bye for now.
This is an ACE charity initiative, powered by the Malala Fund.
This broadcast is for secondary school students. Hello listeners, my name is Mrs. Oluwashina Teniola and I welcome you to today's mathematics class on ACE Radio School. Today, I will be teaching you more laws of indices and how you can apply them while simplifying an expression. Get your pen and notebook and let's get ready to learn. Previously, I explained that the index, also known as the power, is written as a small number to the right and above the base number. I explained the law of raising a power to a power and the zeroth law, stating that any number raised to the power of 0 is 1. and how you can apply the rules when simplifying an expression. We shall consider the law of negative indices and fractional indices. We shall consider the law of negative indices and fractional indices. Don't forget that index is the same as power. Let's consider this example. Simplify d raised to the power 2 divided by d raised to the power 3. Let's simplify step by step. D raised to the power 2 equals d times d, and d raised to the power 3 equals d times d times d. D raised to the power 2 divided by d raised to the power 3 becomes d times d over d times d times d. The first d at the numerator, that is the first d above the line in a fraction, will cancel the first d at the denominator, that is the first d below the line in the fraction. Good. The second d at the numerator will cancel the second d at the denominator. Is there any d left at the numerator? No. Is there any d left at the denominator? Yes. Therefore, d raised to the power 2 divided by d raised to the power 3 equals 1 over d. In indices, 1 over d equals d raised to the power minus 1. I would like to show you how. D raised to the power 2 divided by d raised to the power 3. As long as the expression has the same base, you can express it as d raised to the power 2 minus 3. The division sign has changed to a negative sign. Therefore, 2 minus 3 equals minus 1. That is, d raised to the power 2 minus 3 equals d raised to the power minus 1. Hence, d raised to the power 2 divided by d raised to the power 3 equals d raised to the power 2 minus 3 equals d raised to the power minus 1. Fantastic! Don't forget that d raised to the power minus 1 equals 1 over d. By default, we can say that d raised to the power minus 2 equals 1 over d raised to the power 2 equals 1 over d times d. N raised to the power minus 4 equals 1 over m raised to the power 4 equals 1 over m times m times n times m. Let's consider another example. Simplify 2 raised to the power minus 3. Very simple. 2 raised to the power minus 3 equals 1 over 2 raised to the power 3 equals 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 equals 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 will give us 8. Hence, 2 raised to the power minus 3 equals 1 over 2 raised to the power 3 equals 1 over 2 times 2 times 2 equals 1 over 8. Great! Simplify 10 raised to the power minus 2. 10 raised to the power minus 2 equals 1 over 10 raised to the power 2 equals 1 over 10 times 10 equals 1 over 100. Excellent! The other law we shall be considering is the fractional indices. Simplify 4 raised to the power 1 over 2. Simplify 4 raised to the power 1 over 2. The power or index in this example is a fraction. I believe you're familiar with square root, cube root, and so on. The difference between square and square root is simple. Follow me as I give you a detailed explanation. 4 raised to the power 2 is the same as 4 square, which is 4 times 4. But 4 raised to the power 1 over 2 is the same as 4 square root or square root of 4. This is simply asking you to look for two equal numbers such that when you multiply these two numbers, their result will be 4. What two numbers will give us 4? That will be 2 times 2. Hence, the square root of 4 is 2. That is, 4 raised to the power 1 over 2 equals the square root of 4, which is equal to 2. Let's consider another example. Simplify 16 raised to the power 1 over 2. 16 raised to the power 1 over 2. Just like the previous example, this is simply asking you for the square root of 16. That is, to look for two equal numbers such that when you multiply these two numbers, their result will be 16. That will be 4 times 4. Hence, the square root of 16 is 4. That is, 16 raised to the power 1 over 2 equals the square root of 16, which is equal to 4. Let's consider another example. Simplify 8 raised to the power 1 over 3. 8 raised to the power 1 over 3. This means finding the cube root of 8. That is, finding 3 equal numbers such that when you multiply these 3 numbers, their result will be 8. That will be 2 times 2 times 2. Yeah. 2 times 2 times 2 equals 8. Hence, the cube root of 8 is 2. That is, 8 raised to the power 1 over 3 equals the cube root of 8, which is equal to 2. Very simple. Well done, listeners. We have come to the end of today's lesson. We learned about simplifying negative indices and fractional indices. I'd like you to try this as an assignment and send in your answers to this phone number 07036303182. Write your name, age, gender. If you're a boy, type male. If you're a girl, type female. Your class and the state you currently live in. I hope you have done that. Now the questions. 1. Simplify 2 raised to the power minus 2. Simplify 2 raised to the power minus 2. 2. Simplify 9 raised to the power 1 over 2. Simplify 9 raised to the power 1 over 2. 3. Simplify m raised to the power 2 divided by m raised to the power 3. Simplify m raised to the power 2 divided by m raised to the power 3. Okay, we'll be expecting your answers. To listen to a repeat of this episode, tune in on Thursday at 2:30 p.m. and Saturday at 11:30 a.m. You can also catch up on past episodes on our YouTube channel called Ace Radio School. Don't forget to subscribe. Until next time, it's bye for now.
This is for all the children at home during this COVID-19 pandemic. Join Ace Radio School on Wazobia Abuja to continue learning while you're at home. This is for nursery, primary, and secondary school children. We will be teaching you literacy, numeracy, STEM subjects. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and maths. This is an Ace charity initiative. Powered by the Malala Fund.
This session is for secondary school students. Hello listeners, my name is Mrs. Mosi and I'm your ACE Radio School biology teacher. From our previous lesson, we learned about our immune system and how it helps us fight against diseases and pathogens. Today, we will learn more about the types of immunity and white blood cells, also known as leukocytes. Get your book and pen as we begin today's lesson. Now we will learn more about the types of immunity we have. Humans have 4 types of immunity, namely 1. Innate or natural immunity. 2. Adaptive immunity. 3. Passive immunity. And finally, immunizations. Now I will explain them. Innate immunity. Everyone is born with some level of immunity to pathogens. That is why it is called natural immunity. For example, our skin acts as a barrier to block germs from entering the body. We learned in our previous lesson that the immune system recognizes when certain pathogens are foreign and could be dangerous, and the immune system will attack them immediately. This first line of defense against pathogens is the innate immunity. This particular response is more general. If a pathogen manages to dodge the innate immune system, the adaptive immunity kicks in, which is the next type of immunity we will learn about. So, what is adaptive immunity? Adaptive or active immunity develops throughout our lives. We develop adaptive immunity after we are exposed to some diseases as we go through life. Can you remember in our last lesson when we learned that our immune system has a record of every pathogen it ever fought? The adaptive immunity remembers previous pathogens and can fight them better when they get into our body again. Isn't this amazing? Great! Next is passive immunity. Passive immunity is most times from another source, and it lasts for a short time. For example, little babies get antibodies from their mother's breast milk, and it gives a baby temporary immunity to diseases the mother has been exposed to. This type of immunity does not last forever. Also, a baby receives antibodies from the mother through the placenta before birth. This passive immunity protects the baby from some infections during the early years of their life. Finally, we have immunizations. Immunization introduces antigens of an infection to a person in such a way that the individual does not become sick but still produces antibodies to fight the infection. When immunized, the body saves copies of the antibodies and protects us if the threat should reappear later in life. For example, can you remember when you collect injections to prevent meningitis or yellow fever? That is a form of immunization. So when yellow fever virus tries to infect us after immunization, our body remembers it and is able to fight it, so we don't get sick from yellow fever. As we get vaccinated against different diseases, we build up antibodies to different pathogens. That is why it is important we get immunized, so we can be protected from certain diseases. Now let us learn more about the white blood cells, also known as leukocytes. Leukocytes, also known as white blood cells, are a central part of the immune system. It is one of the cells the body makes to help fight infections. They help to protect the body against foreign substances, pathogens, and infectious diseases. All leukocytes are produced and derived from the bone marrow. These cells are stored in various locations throughout the body, including the thymus, spleen, lymph nodes, and bone marrow. When there's an infection, there's an increase in the number of leukocyte production. Hence, high leukocyte levels suggest that the body is trying to fight an infection. Leukocytes travel throughout the body, moving between organs and nodes and monitoring any potentially problematic germs or infections. The normal white blood cell count is usually between 4,000 and 11,000 per microliter of blood. An increase in the number of leukocytes above 11,000 per microliter is called leukocytosis. A decrease between 4,000 per microliter of blood is called leukopenia. This indicates a weakened immune system. Sometimes our immune system can be overreactive or underreactive. Overactivity of the immune system can take many forms, including allergy. ALLERGY. Allergy, where the immune system overreacts to substances in the environment, including food, medications, stinging insects, etc. Allergies are very common and most times harmless. Underactivity of the immune system is also called immunodeficiency. Immunodeficiency can be inherited. It can arise because of medical treatment. It can be caused by another disease such as HIV or certain types of cancer. An underreactive immune system does not function correctly and makes people vulnerable to infections. It can be life-threatening in several cases. In today's lesson, we learned about the types of immunity. We learned about the white blood cells, also known as leukocytes, and the overactivity and underactivity of the immune system. Don't forget that the white blood cells are important as they fight germs that enter our bodies. Remember also to eat healthy, wash our hands, and keep our environment clean and tidy to reduce the number of germs and bacteria we can encounter. I will give you an assignment. Send a text message to this number 070 363 3182. I'll repeat the number again. 070 363 3182. And tell me one thing you learned in today's lesson. Make sure you also type your name, age, class, subject, which is biology, and the state you live in. So here we go. Number 1, which is not a type of immunity? A, adaptive immunity. B, annual immunity. And C, immunization. Number 2, when someone's immune system overreacts to something harmless, it is called A, an allergy. B, a sneeze. C, the measles. Now click send and we will receive all your answers. Thank you for listening.
Hello everyone, this is for all the children at home during this COVID-19 pandemic. Join ACE Radio School on Wazobia Abuja to continue learning while you're at home. This is for nursery, primary, and secondary school children. We will be teaching you literacy, numeracy, STEM subjects. STEM stands for science, technology, engineering, and maths. This is an ACE charity initiative. Powered by the Malala Fund.